Good evening, welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines here in the south. A community in shock, a police cordon, a road closed with reports of 2 bodies found at a house on the Isle of Wight.
Thousands of jobs at risk. The Chancellor's warning over leaving the EU in a visit to Sussex, but are local people convinced?
And catching the waves, is this a kitesurfing world record? Hundreds in Hampshire attempted it, but did they succeed?
Good evening to you. The bodies of an elderly couple have been found at a house on the Isle of Wight. Police have not confirmed how they died, but say their deaths are being treated as an isolated incident.
The bodies were discovered at the property in Shanklin this morning. The road was cordoned off with forensic officers at the scene for much of the day.
Emma Wilkinson's live for us now in our newsroom. Emma, what more do we know?
Well, at around 7:10 this morning, police were called to Albert Road in Shanklin and a section of the road was quickly cordoned off. Police confirmed this afternoon that the bodies of 2 elderly people, a 77-year-old man and an 83-year-old woman, were found inside a house. Earlier, forensic investigators arrived at the scene while officers have been carrying out door-to-door inquiries this afternoon. Police say at the moment they're treating this as an isolated incident. They don't believe there's any risk to the public and they aren't looking for anyone else in connection with the deaths. The process to formally identify the 2 people is ongoing, but we're told specialist officers are now supporting the next of kin. Post-mortem examinations to work out exactly how these 2 people died will take place tomorrow.
More on our late news for now. Emma, thank you very much.
In other news, 4 people arrested on suspicion of murdering a man in Crawley are still being questioned by police tonight. A 20-year-old man from Mayfield was found stabbed in a flat on Spencer's Road on Saturday. He later died in hospital. 2 women and 2 men in their 20s were arrested and remain in custody.
A 5-day bus strike has begun in Dorset. More than 100 drivers at First Group depots in Weymouth and Bridport walked out this morning in a long-running dispute over pay and conditions. Services are due to get back to normal on Saturday.
This just shows the frustration they've got with the company. I feel sorry for the public. It is summer. People will be coming to Weymouth. But, you know, have some sympathy for these drivers. They're desperate for a pay rise.
Weymouth and Bridport drivers are not the highest paid in First Bus, but they're also not the lowest paid in First Bus. And the key things that are factors involving terms and conditions and pay are around the local economy, labour markets, all sorts of varying different factors and revenue.
Thousands of commuters in Sussex, Surrey and Hampshire will face major disruption tomorrow morning as a 4th 24-hour walkout by train conductors begins. It's due to a bitter dispute over planned changes to the role of the guards. It means there will be no trains on some routes and only a limited service on others between 7:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. The Brighton Main Line will operate a reduced Gatwick Express and Southern service between Victoria, Gatwick and Brighton.
Well, now, leading figures in the car industry, which of course is so important to our region, today restated their view that staying in the EU is best for British jobs.
The Society of Motor Manufacturers and Traders, whose members include Rolls-Royce, Goodwood and Honda in Wiltshire, claims nearly 80% of firms say remaining in will be best for their business. It comes as David Cameron was at the BMW mini plant in Oxfordshire and said access to Europe's single market was vital to industry.
Meanwhile, the Chancellor, George Osborne, was in West Sussex today, claiming jobs would be lost if we left the EU. But as our political correspondent Phil Hornby now reports, his warnings seem to carry little weight with voters on the street.
A visit to a high-tech automotive consultancy firm and the sort of photo opportunity he loves. Mr. Osborne got a masterclass in bolting down a cylinder head. Then he gave us a masterclass in the art of not quite answering the question he was asked. We were told we could ask 3.
Do you agree with Paddy Ashdown that hyperbole is a kind of a lie? Maybe that's why lots of people don't believe a word you've said during this campaign.
Well, with just days to go, you've got everyone from football clubs to Formula One, from the country's car manufacturers to the country's leading entrepreneur, Richard Branson, all saying very clearly that there is a big risk to quitting the EU.
Nothing about Paddy Ashdown's comments there. Let's have another go.
If we vote to stay in, how's that going to affect your relationship with the rest of the EU? Because you no longer have that nuclear option to say, if you don't listen to us, we might leave. And they're just going to ride roughshod over you, aren't they?
Well, Britain has the best of both worlds. We are not in the euro or the open border system, but we are in the single market. And the business I'm in here today on the south coast makes car engines that go in cars that are exported across the EU. And the car industry is telling us today that there would be jobs losses and there will be a risk to British exports if we quit.
I was asking if we stay.
Well, if we remain in, we can go on selling these cars into the European Union.
Will the EU just ride roughshod over you?
And get the reforms that we have agreed with the EU that give Britain the best of both worlds.
OK, I'll try a third question. Can the Tory party put itself back together again?
Well, look, this isn't about one political party. What you've got is a whole range of people, from the Labour Party to the Conservative Party.
Maybe we'd have better luck getting straight answers from the people out braving the midsummer monsoon in Shoreham.
Has any politician said anything during this campaign that's made you change your mind?
No. No.
Could anybody say anything to make you change your mind?
Not really, no.
I think the problem is a lack of information on both sides.
Is your mind made up?
It's up to my husband, really.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Does he have more sway than George Osborne?
I don't know, probably.
Not long to go now. Phil Hornby, ITV News, Shoreham.
Fascinating insight there. Well, every week, of course, groups of entrepreneurs from the south fly out on trade missions to Europe. It's where business relationships are fostered and deals are struck.
Well, John Ryle joined one trip to Munich to talk to business leaders about their hopes and fears for referendum day.
First stop for this trade mission to Munich, the landmark base of the Bavarian Motorworks, BMW. Germany is Britain's second biggest trading partner globally, and there's intense competition here to do deals in the motor industry, the life sciences, aerospace, pharmaceuticals, food and drink.
Germany is a great market for the UK. We've got a huge amount of British firms succeeding here, but competition is tough, and the British firms need to be here in the market, showing the best of British.
BMW World looks to the future. Next door at the BMW Museum, there are some exhibits, but not many, that predate the 1975 referendum that committed us to the common market.
There are dozens of trade missions like this one every year. Entrepreneurs from the south and southeast of England here in Munich to make contacts and win contracts. This group's views on continuing EU membership are varied, but they have one thing in common: a hatred of uncertainty. They want this referendum over so that they can address themselves to the new reality, in or out.
One important cross-channel connection for this visit is BMW's mini production plant at Crawley. Another key relationship, South of England aerospace companies and the European Space Agency.
Well, the key thing for us really is that there are a number of aerospace cities within Europe which are key hubs. Munich is one, and the south coast of England is also very strong in aerospace. So it's important for us to actually set up the links.
So how important is EU membership for a company specialising in spacecraft propulsion?
The European space industry is driven by the European Space Agency, which is part of the European Union, and has member states such as Canada and member states that are outside of the European Union. So in many respects it will have a reduced effect upon our industry. But of course the European Union didn't necessarily invent business relationships, and everyone's fingers crossed that if we do leave, these business relationships will continue to grow and prosper.
After the tour of BMW, past, present and future, a presentation by Munich's biggest private sector employer, Airbus. Brexit is dreaded by a company here to pitch for aerospace and defence contracts.
We've invested so much to be in this EU collaboration. Why would we throw all that investment away? Look at the relationships we've made with our industrial partners in the EU. These will potentially not be as lucrative in the future.
Her concerns shared by the boss of a company who suspects he's already lost an aerospace contract in Germany because of the uncertainty over Britain's future in the EU.
If UK decide to come out of the EU, I think a lot of small and medium enterprises who've been working with European companies, I think they will have all very difficult time.
How much damage could Brexit do to your company?
To my company, we will be really on a borderline.
Back in March, the Director General of the British Chambers of Commerce was suspended for backing Brexit. The Chamber's representative here was more cautious.
Well, Chambers have declared a neutral stance because many of our members are very divided on which way we should go, and they're still making up their mind. And of course, what we're looking for is the facts, and we'll be doing a number of talks and roundtables and discussion groups for business to actually hear those facts from both sides, so they can clearly make up their own minds on June the 23rd.
For now, though, the future is where business least likes it, up in the air. John Ryle, ITV News, Munich.
On to sport now, and in tennis, Johanna Konta will be hoping for success in her hometown of Eastbourne this week ahead of the start of Wimbledon next Monday. Konta has also been selected to represent Great Britain in the Rio Olympics, but she says first she's determined to do well at Devonshire Park, particularly as it's so close to home.
I get to stay at home, I get to sleep in my own bed, I get to spend time with my family. I think I am definitely the luckiest player here this week, that during this sort of weather I get to go home instead of going back to a hotel room.
Meanwhile, in football, of course, England and Wales play in the European Championships tonight, with 3 of our local players likely to feature. Southampton defender Ryan Bertrand is expected to play for the first time in the tournament as England face Slovakia, while Reading's Hal Robson-Kanu and Chris Gunter will line up for Wales against Russia.
And hundreds of kite surfers have taken to the water off the south coast to set a new world record. In total, 423 kite surfers met on Hayling Island during the Virgin Kitesurfing Armada and managed to travel the mile-long course to claim the title for the world's largest parade of kite surfers. It took 3.5 hours to complete. Stunning pictures. Well done if you were one of those.
Amazing pictures, lovely weather for kite surfers, lovely weather for ducks this morning.
It was.
It can only get better.
Can't
Can't it? Let's find out. Here's your forecast now with Simon Parkin.
From blizzards to pool, driving through Europe, Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Well, considering that this is how the longest day started, it's actually ended quite nicely with some decent sunshine this evening and a quiet night ahead. We also have the added bonus of a strawberry moon, which you'll see with the clear spells. Nothing to do with the colour of it, just because back in the olden days it was handy and bright for picking the strawberries. But mist and murk patches developing and another mild and muggy night. And yes, it'll probably be a bit grey first thing tomorrow morning, but the mist will lift, the cloud will break. We'll get some decent sunny spells on the go. In the best of the blue sky moments, temperatures up to around 19 degrees. Down towards the south coast though, cloud thicker here, could even be thick enough for an odd spot of drizzle as well. As for your high tide times, you can see in Southampton 2:30 in the morning, 1:45 in the afternoon.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather. Keeping a close eye on summer. The Pollen Count, sponsored by Ilogy Eye Drops.
Well, the downside to a largely fine day tomorrow is that grass pollen levels will once again be very high, and that's how they'll stay for the rest of the week, unless you're lucky enough to have a shower, in which case they will drop.
Well, a shorter programme tonight because of the football here on ITV later, but in just a moment, the ITV Evening News with Mark Austin and Mary Nightingale.
Stacey's got our late news, but for now, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thanks very much indeed for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.
Good night.